We're the Jews, we're the Jews. We've got a message for you. We're the Jews, we're the Jews. We got the King of the universe blue. Gonna tell you a story. Gonna tell you slow. You know the Lord is cooler than an Eskimo. We're the Jews, we're the Jews. We got a message for you. We're the Jews, we're the Jews. We got the King of the universe blue. Come on, children, we're gonna have some fun. You ain't seen nothing like the Holy One. Tell me how long do I have to wait? Can I get Mashiach now, or must I hesitate? Welcome. Thanks, Isaac. Last time we said that Hashem thinks about you and he thinks about me as individuals, and he relates to us each as individuals. Each one is an only child. And I asked the question, how is it can it be possible that at the same time I'm an only child and you're an only child? And I realized that one of the things we said on the show that night is a very good metaphor for how that can work. We told the story of Rabbi Schwartz, who said when he had one child, he loved the child so much, he couldn't imagine if he has a second child how he's going to have any love to give. And he said when he had a second child, a new love jet opened up in his heart for that second child. And when he had a third one, a new love jet. So the same with Hashem. Only it's Hashem. So he can deal with each one of us in a way where each one of us is his only child, and he loves us, and we are all he thinks about. In the same vein, in this week's show, I would like to dedicate it to Rabbi Reichik Olav Sholem. And I asked him a question one time, why is it that I love my kids with such a heartfelt and an intense love? Why isn't it enough that I should love them intellectually? I know they're my children. I have to take care of them. I have to do everything for them. Why do I have to love them with such an intense love? And he answered me, because Hashem wants to show you how he loves you. And really realizing how Hashem loves us, we should also position ourselves in a way to return that love in a simple way as a child. And we don't have to give up our sophistication. We can be a simple child, unsophisticated, have simple faith in Hashem, and at the same time, there is a sophisticated side to it. The simple side, and I saw this example from the previous Rebbe, he said, like when parents are playing around with their kids, they're rolling around on the floor, they're giggling, they're tickling the kid. Somebody who's watching it is not turned on to laugh, but the parent is laughing and enjoying himself no end. He said that's the same way Hashem enjoys himself when we say a Tehillim, or I want to say when we say Modeh Ani. That is the kind of pleasure and enjoyment that Hashem gets from us. But we do have a more sophisticated side. And since Hasidus is the Yechid of the Torah, and the Yechida means it's an abstract point that has the ability to explain all levels of the Torah, and it explains them with a vitality and an illumination, and it gives new life and meaning to the other four parts of the Torah. So I want to tell a story from the Navi Elisha. Before I start, we'll have our recipe for tonight. What happened to Isaac? I wanted him, no, it's all right. I'll do it myself. I wanted him to get me the... The recipe for tonight is red cabbage, sauerkraut. It's not that sour. It's real delicious and very healthy. It's probiotic. It's very easy to make. I make it in a gallon jar. I just bought a little bit to show you an example how beautiful it looks. You take about, for a gallon, I take about 6 ounces of salt and a whole bunch of garlic and put water in it and put a whole bunch of red cabbage. And by the way, red cabbage that is prepared and pre-washed does not have to have a hechsher. Check with your local rabbi. It makes it very easy. And you put it in the water and the salt and the garlic, and you let it sit there for 3 or 4 days. It's very mild and delicious. And if you want to jazz it up a little bit, put in a couple of red peppers in there to also pickle with it. And that's the recipe for tonight. Tonight I want to tell a story from a Navi, but I guess before we do, we'll have a musical interlude. Oh, Mendel, you're okay with that?
Yep,
We're ready?
Absolutely.
Maybe we ought to call it like Zom Band.
All right, we're gonna for this week, as usual, we have our poem from Blueprints of the Universe by the great Jewish poet Ayan Heiss for Parshas Chayesar.
And what's a nigga?
And the niggin is the niggin that we're going to do to lead into it. It's actually an old Farbrengen niggin. The words are Rebbeinu Shalom, Du bist doch unser Vater, wir seien deine Kinder. Master of the universe, you are our father and we are your children. And this is a niggin that growing up was this is sort of one of those deep into the Farbrengen niggin. A very beautiful niggin. Ribono Shalom, Ribono Shalom, du bist doch unser Vater und seine deine Kinder. Ribono Shalom, Ribono Shalom. Ist doch unser Vater und seine Kinder. Eliezer went east on a journey for his mentor Abraham to find a wife, to share a life with Isaac, his precious son. How would he find such a woman, worthy of his teacher's best? A wise woman, not bold, and a heart of pure gold must beat within her breast. He journeyed to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. The road was long, and the day was hot. He was weary to the core. As women came out to draw water, he walked up to a maid to pour a measure to drink to quench his thirst, and he asked for nothing more. But Rivka gave him water and Hashem continued to pour for his beasts of burden, and then she ran back for more. She poured measure for measure. Man and beast drank their pleasure. She utterly banished her. Against the popular fashion, from a heart brimming with compassion, she put his tired stranger's needs first. Eliezer raised his voice, and thanks to Hashem, he gave tokens to Rivka of golden great wealth. He took leave of a kinsman and brought her to Yitzchak, a good-natured woman with no thought of self. Morty, Gedalia Mordechai, Mordechai, Shkach. Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. There's a story of a woman who poured out her heart to Elisha the prophet. And she told him, my man died. This was the Haftorah for last week, by the way, for Vayera. She said, my man died, and the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons as slaves. And Elisha asked her, what do you have in the house? She said, I only have a small jug of oil. He told her, bring empty vessels. Don't be stingy. Get as many as you can get. Pour from your small jar, fill all the vessels. And when she did so, when all the vessels were full out of that small jar, he told her, sell the oil, pay your debts, and you and your sons will live on what's left over. There's an interesting backstory that I heard this past Shabbos from Rabbi Darren. And the backstory is that this lady was the wife of Obadiah the prophet. And there was a decree of the emperor, or whoever was the king then, that all of the prophets should be killed. And Obadiah paid bribes. Apparently, he was an advisor to the government, and he knew who to bribe, and he paid bribes, and he was able to save 100 prophets. The only thing is, he used all of his money, he mortgaged his house, and he mortgaged everything that he owned, and therefore, after he died, the creditor was coming to take his children as slaves. Very interesting story. The Alter Rebbe explains it according to Chassidus. We said that Chassidus gives life and vitality to every part of Torah. And this old story that happened 1,000 years ago, or however many 100 years ago it happened, the Alter Rebbe explains to us how we're able to use it in our daily service of Hashem. The one woman indicates a neshama. The woman indicates the Jewish soul. And one woman indicates the unification that the soul has with Hashem. It says she was a daughter of the prophets, meaning the neshama is a vessel to receive an understanding and a revelation of godliness. Like a neshama receives an understanding and revelation of godliness, so too the neshama. So she's called a daughter of the prophets. Elisha is broken up by the Alter Rebbe in two words, which is Keli Shah, which basically means, we can go into it deeper, but basically Elisha here means Hashem. And she's saying, Keli, my God, Shah, listen to me. So you have this one woman who's a daughter of the prophets who says to Elisha, so the soul that's unified with God, who's able to have a godly revelation, says to Hashem, your servant, my husband, has died. She calls her husband Ishi, my husband. And Ishi can be broken up into two words, which is Aish, fire, and Yud, and the letter Yud. She's saying that my fiery love that I have for you has gone out. My Aish, my fire, which unifies into the godly Chachma and the Chachma of the soul, has died out. And I have no feelings left for you. My husband has died. And I want to connect it to something we said last week, that there's heavenly announcements all the time. And we don't hear them, and why don't we hear them? The heavenly announcement says, children, return to me. Children, learn Torah. And we don't do it. Why? Because we have a closed mind and a closed heart. A closed mind meaning that even though we have the brain, the ability to study Torah and to connect with Hashem through Torah, we don't really want to. And what's the proof? That we're smart enough to make a living, we're smart enough to deal in the world, but somehow we can't get ourselves to learn Torah. That's the closed mind. And the closed heart means we're so involved in the things of the world, and our desires to make a living, and our desires of food, and all the other kinds of desires in the world, our heart gets closed up. And that's basically what this soul is saying. But I didn't mention this. The soul has the ability to overcome it, and that ability is given to the soul, like it says in the beginning of Tanya. The soul is made to swear that it's going to be a righteous and not a wicked. And that oath that it swears gives it the ability to overcome all of these drawbacks. So even though this soul is not aroused to godliness, she says, I have no feelings of love for Hashem. The creditor is taking my two sons for slaves. Who are the two sons? The soul, the love and fear that the soul has for Hashem, they're the sons, like it says in Tanya. The love and fear, the midos, the emotional attributes, are offspring of the mochen. And since there's no learning of Torah, there's no mochen, and therefore there's no love and fear. So the creditor here is the animal soul. And the animal soul is taking over the love and fear, that there should be a love and fear of alien things, and not for godliness, not for Hashem. So there's a darkening of the godly awareness. And not only that, that animal soul wants to nullify the natural love and fear that the soul has naturally for Hashem. When she said that she only has a little bit of oil, that little bit of oil is the essential point of the Jewish soul, which cannot be lost and cannot be put out, and is so great that it could fill up all the vessels. all of those empty vessels could be filled up by that little bit of oil. And a story that illustrates it, it may be that we told the story, but a story you could tell again. And this is a story that has to do with Modeh Ani, which is explained by this book on the essence of Hasidus that we've been learning. And the different levels of it are explained through Hasidus. And the story is, and by the way, this week, in another couple of days, is the anniversary of the birthday of the Rebbe Rashab. And this story is a story of the Rebbe Rashab when he was 9 years old. And his brother, the Rizal, was 11, and they were walking home from school. And his brother said to him, "What is the dot after Bechemla, after the word mercy?" It says, Modeh Ani, "I offer thanks to you, living and eternal King, for you have restored my soul in mercy." And after the word mercy, there's a dot. There's a period. There's no other punctuation in there. Great is your faithfulness. So the older brother asked the younger brother, "What is that dot? What does it symbolize?" And the 9-year-old kid said, "That dot is the essential point of the Jewishness, the Jewish soul that Hashem gives to a Jew against his will. He gives it to him before he purifies himself. He hasn't washed his hands. He gives it to him before he learned any Torah and before he did any mitzvahs. And that is this little jar of oil that this lady has. And we'll see the remedy that Elisha gives her and the salvation that Elisha gives us all. But first, we'll have a musical interlude. These guys were so good before, well, we're going to ask them to come back for an encore.
All right, we got this one here is beautiful Yiddish song that I used to hear in Chazan Rabbi Beryl Zaltzman's shul growing up. It was one of the old, from before the war, the Russian songs, Polish Russian. It was one of the Yiddish songs written by Mordechai Gebirtig, who was a very well-known songwriter. He wrote many songs that are still sung today in Yiddish communities, but certainly when I was growing up, there was some. In der Jahren, siehste, in der Jahren. Ewig bleibt dir wach in meine Sikoren. Wenn ich trage von neuer Zeit, wird mir also in Eingeleit. Oh, wie schnell bin ich schön aufgeworden. Noch wie spät mich durch die Wohlfahrt. Wo ich bin geboren, euch gezeugen. Und meine Siegel seh ich dort, steht noch über demselben Ort. Wie Achol im Wiesel, das Salzparkfleugen. Und meine Mama, ach, wie schlecht sie ist. Gott, sie hat in Cheder mich getrieben. Jeder Kind ist vor ihr Hand, und ihr mit noch das Eure Bakan. Gott, steht zeitlich, nicht stark und ich die Fegele, du Schöne. Noch Gush Ich die Reite wechselt deine deine Augen voll mit Tränen Ringen in mein Herz herein Hab ich gemeint, du wärst damals ein meine Kinderjahre, junge, schöne Blumen Zurück zu mir, wenn ich schon mehr nicht gekommen Oi, orin, alte Trörike Kaffee, Mare, Schweide Hab ich neue Schönen, Platz verloren Kinderjahre, hab ich I meine getreue Mama, ich verloren I funne stopp nicht doch in Fleck Egele so ich habe Oi, wie schnell bin ich schon geworden
Well, I'm not an expert in music, but I know what I like. That was good. So let's see what it means that he told her to bring empty vessels. Empty vessels are Torah and mitzvahs without love and fear, without any thoughts of godliness, just Mesiras Nefesh. He told her, do Torah and mitzvahs even though you don't feel it. Even though you don't feel Hashem is connected to it. They are vessels of godly light and pour into them the oil of the essence of the soul. When you do it, your boys, love and fear, will live richly from what's left over. You'll pay your debts, and you and your boys will live from what's left over. Another explanation of empty vessels is for us to think hard. I am an empty vessel. I have no das. I have no concentration on Hashem. I forget about Hashem. My revealed connection to Hashem is lost. Therefore, I have no love and fear. That thinking itself will bring one to be bitter and will generate that he'll want to do tshuva, and light will come from the dark. So there will be extra light and richness which was not even there in the beginning in the love of the fiery flames, in the mind and the heart. Now we're going to have a sign-off tune. Where's Isaac? Is Isaac here? Is Mendel here?
I'm here.
Okay. No Isaac?
Where does Isila go? Isila!
You want to get in this?
Where's Isila? Hurry up. There we go. Where's your flute?
Ready?
Over there, right here. Right here.
Good. Gesundheit, 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 my friend. Remember, kids, get Gesundheit. Come on. Give me a little bit of that.